Hello folks, this is Solo once again. Welcome to another video for our Teamfight Tactics. In this video, we're going to be looking at the Dusk trait, but first I do want to mention that I was able to get a new one of the little legends. Another one of the Feather Knights just randomly appeared as one of the rewards here for set 4. So in addition to the Sakura Feather Knight that I've used for a long time now, I also have the cheaper Feather Knight, so you'll be seeing that in some of my videos and live streams going forward. I just like the Feather Knights, they're very cute. All right, in this video, as I said, we're going to be looking at the Dusk trait. Dusk is a trait that powers up both your full team and also powers up the individual Dusk trait, individual Dusk champions. Has kind of adds extra spell power to both your whole team and then has a bigger benefit for the champions that are Dusk themselves. So that's kind of how it functions. And I'll talk more about that when I actually get Dusk champions in play. There are different advantages to the Dusk overall setup. When you're going to be playing Dusk, you're typically playing a Riven-based comp. She's kind of the key carry. She's a 4-cost champion, and she's kind of she has Dusk as one of her traits. Keeper is her other trait. And so when you're playing a Dusk team composition, you're usually basing it around Riven. But it's a very flexible team composition, and you can take it in a lot of different directions. It's also a handy team composition because it doesn't need some of the items that are really key in other team compositions. Right now, most of the most popular team compositions are based on a lot of BF items that be out of BF Sword, and a lot of stuff that's based on critical strike chance. And a Dust team composition doesn't really need those items. It's more based around defensive itemization. Riven kind of functions best if you put more defensive items on her. So another reason why that composition tends to work pretty well. As far as what's going on in this match, I started out by grabbing a chain vest off the initial carousel. I like the chain vest opening just in general in the current version of Teamfight Tactics. I've often found that you can do well by kind of building from the front, starting with your front line and then kind of building backwards from there, making sure that your front line is strong enough to stand up to damage at the beginning of the game. And in particular, if you're going to be playing a Dusk team composition, those items will typically carry over onto Riven. So that's kind of why I went and grabbed the chain vest first. I then was looking just looking for an early game chosen to play. I have ended up finding Nidalee here. With a sharpshooter version of Nidalee. So I was thinking, all right, well, I'll play through sharpshooters in the early game. That's not going to be the final team composition. I'm going to be looking to go into Dusk. And since this is a pre-recorded video footage that I'm providing commentary for, you know that that's already going to happen down the road. My big concern right now is I'm very weak from a frontline perspective. I just have the Garen there. I didn't see anything else to pair with it. If there had been another unit to pair with the Garen, I would have leveled to 4 here and played that, but I didn't see anything. And in this match, you're going to see the problems of having that weak front line. This is a team composition that is running the Yasuo. They found a chosen Yasuo, and they just cut right through the front line in an instant. And I'm not able to kill any of the units, which is always a bad sign because you take the 6 damage, and that's not what you want. So this is a composition that the other player whose name is just a random jumble of letters is playing, and it looks like they're going to be building, at least in the early game, with a duelist Yasuo and going into that team composition. So what I need more than anything else is to strengthen my front line. Unfortunately, I don't really see anything here that I would play. Like, of course, I could level and toss in the Tahm Kench, but Garen and Tahm Kench don't really synergize together. One is Vanguard, the other is Brawler. There's no particular trait that fits there. Since I lost the first round, I don't see any compelling reason to try to level here and try to maintain a win streak. I'm not going to be able to stack up more gold, so I figure I'll just leave myself at level 3 here. I'm expecting to take a loss here. I'm just hoping that it won't be too bad. But unfortunately, I'm up against someone who's made a Nami chosen here at the beginning of the game. And once again, you see the net effect. My front line just collapses too quickly. And unfortunately, Nidalee is sitting there with her mana bar full, not getting a spear off. She does finally get that spear off, but once again, trapped in a bubble. And I'm going to lose this round as well. At least that loss wasn't as bad, 4 damage instead of 6 damage. But still, I would prefer not to be losing these rounds if possible. Like, the biggest issue is not the sharpshooters. They do enough damage here at the beginning of the game. The issue is not having more of a front line. So I see that Jarvan's there, and I can toss him in to get Warlord in play. That will add a little bit of extra health and a little bit of extra spell power to the Garen and the Jarvan and the Nidalee. And this is also more of what I need. Like, I need more people to tank for me up on the front lines. I don't need more damage, at least at the moment. One of the other things that was hurting me here is I did get the 3 item start, but I didn't get much in the way of gold. And the general feeling is it's weaker to start with more of the items as opposed to starting with more gold, because you're just kind of put behind the economy curve immediately. Like, I only received 2 gold, I think, as far as those first minion rounds went. So I'm a little bit poor. And like I said, I'm just behind the curve on economy right away. But this round's going better. Having that extra unit in there does make a difference. I still don't think that I'm going to win this one because I'm up against someone who has a Wukong chosen with a Death Blade. That's kind of weird. Also, this person, Benny Bois, was playing, I believe was playing 4 Vanguard. And all my damage is physical, so I do not do very well against physical damage. But that's the kind of loss you want. Losing the round with only 1 unit still alive. That's a good outcome right there. Now I have first pick as far as carousel priority, and so I decide I will just make another item that is good for a future Riven. I grabbed a needlessly large rod. I already have the Negatron Cloak, and they will combine together for Ionic Spark, which is a good Riven item. Sunfire Cape, Ionic Spark, good items. Bramble Vest is also a very good item, but I've already used my Chain Vest. I think I would prefer to have Bramble Vest over Sunfire Cape, but I also want to make use of the items that I'm getting. And like I said, I'm not so concerned in needing more damage items right now. What I'm wanting is a setup where my front line doesn't crumble instantly to the enemy team comp, and this is going to be helpful in that regard. So once again, I can look to level to 8 here, but in order to do that, I have to have a unit that I want to put in, and I don't really see a unit that I would want to put in. I would really, and the other thing is, note that I just highlighted with my mouse there, I have 2 out of 3 Garens and 2 out of 3 Veins. I would really like to win this round so I can get up to 20 gold and get the next income breakpoint. At the same time, though, I'm not going to sell these champions to level because I really want to make 2-star versions of them. I'm also looking at what comps I've hit here, and I actually have hit kind of all 3 of the top comps, at least in terms of health goes. But unfortunately, I'm up against someone who's already gone ahead and leveled to 5. Yeah, so this is going to be a harder round to win because they're going to have the extra unit in. And unfortunately, yeah, this is falling apart pretty quickly here. And I, unfortunately, am not only going to lose this round, I'm going to lose it pretty badly, which means I'm going to lose a lot of health. And this is not a good outcome for me at all, because I end up taking 10 damage. Ooh, 10 damage in 2-5 or 2-4 is not good at all. When you're in the second round of, the first rotation of playing other human opponents, you really don't want to lose 10 health from a single round. So that was pretty terrible. And I didn't manage to hit the next income breakpoint. But, that was someone who went ahead, leveled to 5, had already gotten a number of 2-star champions, and I just didn't really have a unit I wanted to put in. I haven't found, like, a Thresh, which would be really nice to put in Dusk. I haven't found another Keeper unit. If I had been able to find, like, a Cannon or something, I would have leveled here and put in Keeper as well, or even another Vanguard unit. I don't think I've even seen Wukong pop up, so just haven't been seeing the units I want, and if I can't level and put in a unit that's going to do something to help me, I didn't want to cut into my economy just to play units that weren't going to be that helpful. Here, though, we get a great Nidalee Spear that goes ahead and pops. I think it was one of the Jinxes on the other team's side. So here, I actually think I'm going to be able to win this round. Now, arguably, it would be better to lose that round, because if I had lost, I would have only taken, I think, like 2 or 3 damage, and that would have kept a 5-match loss streak going into the minion round. But I don't feel too bad about that. I never like losing rounds. I always want to get the health. And the lobby gets a little bit of a help there, as the 2 players who hadn't lost yet hit one another. And as a result, one of them is going to get knocked out. So here I'm looking for another unit to play. For some reason, I don't see the Wukong, which is the unit I want to grab here. Wukong would be the unit to play here because that would just make Vanguard and make Garen a lot tankier. Garen is now pretty tanky with his Sunfire Cape and his Ionic Spark. He's going to be able to soak up damage in the way that I want. Now if I can manage to put a little bit more around him. Again, the unit I probably most want here is Thresh. Thresh would make Vanguard. He'd also make the first level of Dusk. And then, aha, look what I find here. I find a spatula, and that is highly, highly noteworthy for this particular team composition. The idea is I'm planning on going into Dusk And Dusk is one of the traits that you can make with a spatula. There, I'm going to highlight the Dusk trait. Thank you, past me, for highlighting that. I'll talk more about it as we go forward. So if you combine a spatula together with a needlessly large rod, you're able to make the Dusk spatula. And that allows you to turn any unit into Dusk. Right now here, by the way, I'm spotting the cannon, and that'll allow me to put a keeper in, which is the best thing I can make. So I'll just put my keepers together to go ahead and get that shield in play. Keepers provide a shield for units that stand next to them. So that's just going to provide a little bit more tankiness for Garen. I don't want to put the Vayne and the Nidalee next to them. I'd rather keep them in the back lines, even though it means they don't get the Keeper shield. So, as I was saying, the spatula means that I can turn a unit into a Dusk unit, and that's great for a couple different reasons. On the one hand, it means that I have a chance to get Dusk 6 into play. There are only 5 Dusk units in the current version of Teamfight Tactics, so you can't make a Dusk 6 composition unless you have a Dusk chosen, or unless you unless you manage to make a Dusk spatula. So that's the hope is, since I'm probably not going to find a Dusk chosen, I mean, it's possible, but let's be honest, the odds are pretty low. The hope is that I can get a needlessly large rod, and that then I'll be able to turn a unit into a Dusk unit who is not normally Dusk. And that's something that's really strong to do. Remember, Dusk units get extra spell power, so you can take a number of different legendary units, put a Dusk spatula on them, and they become like super duper strong if you're running a Dusk composition. Good choices can include individuals like Azir is a good choice at the end of the game because he can make Keeper along with the Riven, and then his spells hit really, really hard. Set is also a really good choice because his spells, like, you know, his whole thing where he grabs people and dunks them just becomes super duper strong if you can turn him into a Dusk unit and you're running either Dusk 4 or Dusk 6. Units like that are just really, really good to have. They're units that you wouldn't play in the team composition unless you happen to make a Dusk spatula, but they help out a lot. As far as what's going on right now, since I have the Nidalee Sharpshooter chosen, I have gone ahead and tossed in Teemo as well as the Vayne. Again, I'm a little bit lacking for frontline protection. I did weaken my frontline by taking Jarvan out, but I think that playing the 4 Sharpshooters is more valuable just because I'm going to be doing a lot of extra damage as a result, get those extra bounces. So I think that makes my team composition stronger as a result. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that works. I have not been leveling too aggressively because, again, I haven't really had units that I wanted to put in. I've been trying to econ a little bit more. I've lost a bit more health than I would have liked, but I'm still in reasonably good shape here. Jarvan, by the way, gets off a fantastic use of his flag and drag, almost kills several people, and now just hoping the sharpshooter bounces are enough. We're up against that Wukong chosen with the Deathblade again, which is super weird, and it's very close, but Nidalee does manage to finish that off at the last second. And once again, I'm just happy not to lose any health. So here we've got the carousel. I have reasonably decent priority. I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to grab a needlessly large rod. I'm going to make my Dusk spatula. And guess what? There's no needlessly large rods on the carousel. I was like, that's disappointing. So yeah, no needlessly large rods available. At this point, I was thinking, well, maybe I'll go take that BF sword, and in fact, that's probably the most useful thing that I can do here. I don't have any particular item in mind that I'm trying to make, but I wouldn't mind making like a Guardian Angel. I think that would be a good use. Sunfire Cape plus Ionic Spark plus Guardian Angel I think would be a nice setup for a future Riven. Or just in general, I'm sure I can turn this into something. I could always turn it into a Giant Slayer. That's always a possibility as well. I see Jhin pop up, and I'm going to go ahead and toss him in here. For a Dusk, and I just tossed the BF sword on Nidalee because I know I'm going to drop the Nidalee later on. And at this point, now I found Thresh, and that's the unit I want to play. Also, I make a mistake and sell the Jarvan. For some reason, I forgot that I had leveled to 6 and I had an extra unit to play. And then at this point, I was like, uh-oh, I'm running out of time. I can play the Hecarim. And I was like, no, wait, I can play the Vi, and that'll continue to keep Warlord in play. But that was a mistake. I should have left the Jarvan in the team composition, in part because Jarvan already had the Warlord bonus stacked up. It takes 5 rounds to get the full Warlord bonus, so that was just me forgetting how many units I had to play. This round looks close, but fortunately we kill the Katarina before she can get her full ult off, and we have enough left over to win this match. Excuse me. I'm in good shape now from an economic perspective. The initial set of PvP rounds didn't go great. I lost 4 out of 5, but things are looking better now. And I was like, aha, I find a Riven early on. That's very good news. I'm going to need Rivens to play this team comp. She's not going in the team composition immediately, but we'll hold on to her. And Garen is indeed holding on to the Riven items that I'm planning on putting on her. So this is a great time to talk about the Dusk trait. I'm highlighting it here in the video. I'll go ahead and read the description because I know I'm going to stop highlighting that soon enough. Dusk. Dusk champions increase all allies' spell power. At Dusk 2, all allies gain 20% spell power. It's a great trait to splash in just at Dusk 2 because everyone on your team gets the 20% spell power. That's roughly like giving everyone a needlessly large rod, which is a nice benefit. If you can take it up to Dusk 4, though, Dusk champions gain an additional 50%. So everyone on the team gets 20% spell power. Then the Dusk champions get another 50%, so that's 70% spell power. And then if you go all the way up to Dusk 6, which again requires a Dusk chosen or a Dusk spatula, you get another 40% for all allies, and then an extra 70% for Dusk champions. So everybody's getting, what, I think 60% spell power, and then the Dusk champions are getting like 150% spell power, something absurd like that. So yeah, it's a lot of spell power, and that means, of course, all the abilities do more damage, and a lot of champions, even champions that don't really cast spells, like Jhin, for example, do get extra abilities. Everybody gets something from spell power. Not in the early versions of Teamfight Tactics, but in Set 4, and I believe in Set 3 as well. Everybody gets something from having spell power. So I'm going to be able to level to 7 here after the minion round. This is the standard point in time, and aha, we get the needlessly large rod from the minion round. And that's exactly what we want, because now I have a Dusk spatula. So I'm going to go ahead and sell the Nidalee. And that allows me to find a new chosen, and then I need to look to find other units. There's an Ashe, but that's not going to be useful in this comp. Again, I'm looking for Dusk units. There's a Vayne there that I should pick up. Let's see if I do that. Nope, I actually go buy it. That's a mistake. I do find another Riven, though, and that's pretty good. And I have more Vaynes. I think I picked that one up, but I haven't really found what I'm looking for. Like, the Callista is not great, but I do manage to find 2-star Jhin, and that's not terrible. So I haven't quite managed to make this transition yet. I need to sell off the Garen and transfer his items over to Riven. Ideally, I would do that when I have a Riven 2-star, but I haven't quite gotten to that point yet. I only have 2 out of 3 Rivens, which still isn't bad. Right now, I need another Dusk champion so that I can get up to Dusk 4. Here, I'm going to make the Dusk spatula, and that means I can just throw this on some random unit, and it'll allow me to get Dusk 4 into play, which again, greatly powers up Dusk champions. Gives the Dusk champions an extra 50% spell power. So at this point, I'm like, well, I just need to throw this on someone in my team composition. So a unit that I'm not going to play, so I can get it, get this unit out of my team composition and then just get the 4 Dusk into play. So at this point, I'm looking and I was like, all right, so we're going to sell Garen. I want to transfer Garen's items over to Riven. So I'm going to toss in the Hecarim just because Hecarim will make Vanguard 2 and Dusk 4. Again, I'm not planning on playing the Hecarim. It's just to get that trait in play. So there we go. We're going to transfer those items over. And now I'm trying to think about what I want for my last item on Riven. Again, my preferred item would be a Guardian Angel, but I don't have the Chain Vest for that right now. I did win the previous round. My team comp is not quite there yet. I still have this Vi in who's not doing anything. Vi needs to come out in favor of a different unit. So I'm going to have to look to find that. And I also need to look to find a Chosen unit because I still don't have a Chosen. This round is looking pretty good, but Jinx then gets off a really good ult and my whole team gets popped. And even though the enemy team is super low, I don't quite manage to finish that off, even though there's 3 units that are literally on no health. And I realized right then, I was like, oh, you know what? I could have made a Zerat portal. And if I'd made Zerat portal that game, I think I'd probably win that round just because I would have been able to get the taunt off. And, as I said, there's 3 units that are on like 10 HP. So that was an unnecessary loss. I think I could have won that round. But I'm still trying to put this team comp together. I've been trying to transition from what I was running earlier into what I'm running right now. Again, I haven't quite been finding what I'm looking for. I've kind of been missing a lot of the Dusk units. I only have 1 Thresh. I only have Thresh 1-star, which is not what I want right now. And I'm also still got that stupid Hecarim in there with the Dusk Spat. I haven't found anything I'd prefer to put in there. I'm going to go ahead and toss in the Nunu just because I think the Nunu is a little bit better than the Vi. But, that's not the unit I want. I'm just running something in here for the moment. It's a bit of a mistake. I didn't hold on to the Kennen earlier. I could have just tossed in Keeper instead of having that in play. This comp that Benny Bois is running is a Vanguard composition. Like all of it, I think he has like Vanguard 6 in or something like that. So that's kind of a problem for my team because all my damage is physical at the moment. I really don't have much of anything in the way of magic damage. So that Sunfire Cape is actually doing a lot of work, but it's not quite enough here. We don't quite manage to last until the end. And that Lux manages to get off some nice bindings too. So that's another loss. And again, it's a bit unfortunate how things are going. So my top item here would be the chain vest if it were available, but I'm pretty sure that gets snapped up quickly. Yeah, that goes immediately here. I was like, all right, well, that's a little bit disappointing. I also have the option to pick the Lilia here, and that's a good, I mean, that would get me another Dusk unit. That would get me another Dusk Chosen. And the other thing is the unit in question has a what's the item in question? It has the Negatron cloak there. So this was a game where I decided I would test out running a Bloodthirster on Riven for her last item. I actually don't think that's a good choice. Now having played this game, again, I haven't played that many Dusk games, but I wanted to test the Bloodthirster. My conclusion was that this is not actually a great item to run on Riven. So I do run that. I do go ahead and use that here, but it doesn't really work that well. Riven doesn't auto attack that much. Like it's not really her basic attacks that do that much damage. I would have done better to grab the needlessly large rod and put a gunblade on her because then her abilities would have had the chance to heal her. I didn't feel like I was strong enough here to go to 8. I wanted to roll a little bit more. I will go ahead and put Jarvan back in. Remember, I've sold Jarvan a couple times, but this will go ahead and at least put the Keeper trait in, so we'll be able to get some shielding here on some of my units. I don't love having them bunched up like that, though. But I'm still looking for like Cassiopeia. She would be a great unit to put in because the Cassiopeia would allow me to make Mystic trait, and I think just would be a more useful trait, more useful champion in general. She would be able to take advantage of Dusk 4. Right now, Riven's trying to do her work there. Like she gets a little bit of health back from auto attacking with the Bloodthirster. But it's not quite enough here. I mean, Riven's actually doing a pretty good job of soloing the enemy team, but she's not going to be able to deal with everyone over there. So I'm going to lose that round as well. And I've actually lost the last 3 rounds in a row now, so this is not going great. And I still am not finding Chosens I want. Like a Warlord Jarvan, no, that's not going to be helpful. And again, I'm still looking here. No, I'm not really finding Dusk champions. Cultist Eve, I mean, I played Eve in a previous game. Then it's the Teemo. I do finally find Cassiopeia, though. So we can go ahead and, let's see, what am I going to do? I believe that I dropped the Hecarim just so I can play Cassiopeia. She'll be more useful here. And again, I'm still looking, and then I see a Dazzler Morgana. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, why not? So Morgana doesn't fit this team composition at all. You would not normally play a Morgana in a Dusk team composition, but I've got the Dusk Spatula, the item that turns any champion into a Dusk. I was like, you know what? If I put all that extra spell power on Morgana, that feels pretty good. That feels pretty good as far as running this team comp. So I can put that in. She is a Dazzler Chosen, so I'll get Dazzler trait with just 1 unit. And, you know, I can run Morg as like my secondary carry here. I kind of have Jhin as the other carry, and that's very standard for a Dusk team composition. And then I can run Morgana as well, and she'll get the Dusk benefit. And, you know, I'll lose Keeper, but that's, you know, losing a 1-star Jarvan's not all that useful here. So there we go. Now we have Dusk 5. Now that doesn't do anything in and of itself, but a Chosen Morgana that's going to be getting all that extra spell power is going to be doing a lot of damage. It's basically like she has a death cap on her. So that, I mean, that's pretty good. And now if we can just manage to find Riven 2-star, I think we'll have something there. And I also get the Dazzler debuff into play, which is really good because a lot of the other players are running AD-focused team compositions, and Dazzler will cut their attack damage. All right, so what would you normally run in one of these team compositions? Oh, by the way, and I get a Nico there, and I was like, all right, well, the Nico, that'll allow me to just make Riven 2-star. I'll go ahead and make the Riven 2-star, and that way I can go to 8 instead of having to roll here at level 7, because I rolled quite a bit at level 7. My economy is not quite where I want it to be. And then I've got a Spear of Shojin. I was like, all right, well, put it on Morgana. It's not a bad item on Morgana. It'll cause her to cast a little bit more often, cast at the beginning of the fight, and then get that Dazzler debuff off on these other teams. Now, you would not play Morgana in this team composition normally. What units would you play? Just kind of as an FYI. So typically what you would be playing is you would be looking to play Cultist in this team composition. The idea was that you would look to run Aatrox because Aatrox makes Vanguard along with the Thresh. Now, I haven't been seeing Aatroxes, so that's not what I've been looking to play here. But like you would look to play Aatrox in order to make the Vanguard trait with Thresh. Unfortunately, I lose this round because I'm not able to finish off that Talon, which is a bit of a shame. So you'd play Aatrox on the front lines. You would then you have Jin in because Jin is a sharpshooter and he pairs with Vayne. And then the other unit you would put in is Zillion, and you'd be running Zillion presumably over the Shen, and then that gets you Cultist into the trait along with Mystic. Here I'm gonna find another Cassiopeia. Oh my god, I didn't pick up that Cassiopeia. What the heck? How did I miss that? Oh boy. Oh, that's a real that's a real sad day not having that happen. Cassiopeia is one of the key units in this comp, and I miss it. Then I find 2 out of 3 sets, and I was like, ooh, wouldn't mind playing that set. In fact, you could even make a case for selling the Morgana and then looking to play the set with the aspect of Dusk spatula item there. But ultimately, don't do that. The unit I need right now is the Lilia, because Lilia will make Dusk 6, and that will power up this comp by a lot. But I actually did get one off the carousel earlier, but of course I sold it to make Bloodthirster on Riven, which, as mentioned, is not even a very good item on her. And in this fight, it's actually the Jin that does the most damage. This is not that uncommon. If Jin is getting the Dusk benefit and he's getting that extra spell power, it causes his attacks to just do even more, just do lots and lots of damage, even if he doesn't have items on him. So Jin is very frequently like your secondary carry. Now, Aatrox does appear right now, but I'm not quite sure how to get him into the comp. I will go ahead and play him over the Sejuani, at least for the moment, but I'm still looking to make maybe the 2-star version of Set. Then I see the Shen that I was like, you know, I would really like to have a 2-star version of the Shen, because the biggest thing this comp is lacking right now is frontline. Like, I do enough damage, that's not the problem. It's I kind of need my team not to melt very quickly. So I'll go ahead and sell the Set. I'm struggling to see how I will get Set into the team comp. I probably would have to sell the Morgana, and I'm not that eager to do that. I really do like having the Dazzler debuff hitting most people on the enemy team. And by the way, this fight, oh my goodness, we just apparently destroyed everybody in this fight. I think the getting the Morgana's Dazzler on a whole bunch of the team really helped. So it's literally just down to the Wukong we've seen that Wukong a bunch of times before. Benny Bois, I believe, is now up to a Vanguard 8 team composition, which is, you know, kind of a meme build there. You're not going to do physical damage, but the Morg's magic damage melts that team comp. Now, there's an aspect of Dusk right there on the carousel on a Lee Sin, which would be amazing. But yeah, sadly, not available. If I were to, that would have been my top item, but it's gone right away, so I'm not able to grab it. But I do see that there's a Lilia here, so once again, I'm going to take Lilia off the carousel. I don't care about the static Shiv, but the Lilia will allow me to get Dusk 6 in play, and that's the biggie for this team composition. I have to take something out, so the unit I take out is Aatrox. I would like to play him in this comp, but it doesn't look like I'm going to get 3 cultists in. I don't really have the setup for it. I would need Zillion in order to do that, and I haven't seen Zillion pop up yet. So we'll go ahead and, you know, take that out. That makes Dusk 6. I should probably hold on to that. Instead, I end up selling it, just in case I could make 2-star Aatrox. But there you go. 40% spell power for everyone, and an additional 70% for Dusk champions. So yeah, they get a ton of spell power. Everybody on the team's got that. And there's another Riven. Again, I'm not really expecting to make Riven 3-star, but I will hold on to them. That will give me an outside chance, and also keeps anyone else from playing Riven, because I've now got 4 of them. I am seeing a lot of sets, but again, I just don't see a way to get Set into the team competition. I like what I've got here. I think ideally would be having the Dusk Spatula on a set 2-star, but you know, the Morgana's not bad, and like I said, having the Dazzler debuff for AD champs on the other team is really nice. Now that we have Lilia in the game, we're also getting some sleepy time on the enemy team. So we have a little bit more crowd control, and that's nice because we've got damage from we've got damage from the Riven, we've got damage from the Jin, we've got damage from the Morgana. So some additional crowd control is nice because we otherwise are a little bit lacking in that. I'm hoping that Shen with his taunt and his Zerat portal will provide a little bit of that. Cassiopeia, a little bit of that as well. She's only a 1-star unit though, again because I stupidly passed over one of the Cassiopeias. Here I'm looking at the other team compositions. I'm trying to position where I think would be better. Based on what I was seeing, I thought Jin would be safer on the left-hand side as opposed to the right-hand side. I don't really care that much about Vayne. If people, like assassins, want to jump on her, that's not a big deal. And right there, Shen manages to get off a really nice taunt. He gets into the back lines, and if he dies there, his Zerat minion will taunt the Jinx, and that provides enough for the rest of our team to get in those back lines, kill off the sharpshooter carries, and that's enough to win that round, and we knock out that player. So we are getting close to the end of the game here. As far as economy is concerned, I thought about whether I should try to go to level 9, but I just didn't think that I had the economy for it. There's probably only like 3 or 4 rounds left in this game, and I would rather try to 2-star some of my remaining units as opposed to try to get to level 9. I just don't think that there's enough rounds left for me to get there. So I'm going to look to stay here and look to roll. Part of the problem was at level 7, I had to roll a lot at level 7. Like, I didn't really find what I was looking for right away. It was a bit of a struggle to find some of the Dust champions, and it took a while for me to find a usable Chosen. Like, most of the Chosens I was finding really were not good fits for the comp. And I wasn't trying to be like super picky or anything. Even the Morgana really isn't a fit for this comp, but you know what? She's pretty good. And we do need a source of magic damage, so having her in the comp is not bad. Giant Slayer goes on Jhin. I mean, that's pretty obvious. Attack damage, attack speed, really good stuff for him. Now, if I had held on to the Aatrox earlier, I could consider playing it, but since I sold the earlier Aatrox, I'm not going to be able to do anything. Here I'm rolling, looking for more helpful stuff, rolling, rolling. This is not a lot of useful stuff here. I've gotten like 4 sets, but I'm not playing set. I made that decision earlier. I'm kind of locked in now. Yeah, that was not a useful roll down. I found almost nothing there. But again, the game's about to be over, so you might as well roll. Since I've been winning I mean, I'm on a 4-match winning streak, and this is exactly the time of the game where you need to be on winning streaks. Now I'm going to get nailed by the Cassiopeia ult on this team right away, but everything else is going great. My own Cassiopeia does great work. Morgana is doing a lot, and Lilia is actually getting off multiple sleepy times. Like, Jinx got put to sleep back there. I guess her Quicksilver period of crowd control immunity ran off. And I do 21 damage to Hobosexual there. Yeah, 21 damage. That's a lot. And that player is holding a lot of Rivens. Unfortunately, that player is holding enough Rivens that I won't be able to make Riven 3-star. One of the nice things about a Dust team composition is that you often have it generally isn't that contested. Like, I will frequently see one other person playing a Dusk comp, but typically I'm not seeing like 2 or 3 other people playing it. Here I find the Zillion. Now, again, if I were to play Aatrox, I could look to get Cultist in, but that would also require me to drop Shen for Zillion, and I don't think that's a good move here. The biggest weakness of my team composition right now is my front line. It's not as strong. Like, I have enough sources of damage. My front line is not that great. So I don't think it would be a good play to drop Shen for Zillion here, even though Zillion's a good unit. And I would love to have the revives. I feel like that would leave me without enough frontline protection. I kind of need Shen up there on the front lines to soak up some damage, both with his taunt and then when he dies with the Zerat minion. So he's kind of doing his job, and like, I'm winning these rounds pretty easily, so I'm not in an eager, like, I don't really want to change up my team comp that much. Like, I won, what, a 5-match winning streak? I just did 21 damage and 23 damage, so I'm like, yeah, this feels pretty good. Let's not go crazy here. We almost managed to knock out that player whose name is just a whole bunch of numbers. Like, we got that player down to 3 HP, so, you know, this game's getting very low. There's only 3 players left, and I can afford to lose a round here. And I might even, in fact, I might even just need to win, like, 1 more round for the game to be over. So, again, I'm looking to 2-star the Cassiopeia, and there we go. We're going to find the Lilia. So I will go ahead and sell the Zillion in order to buy that. And now the only unit that needs to be 2-starred is the Cassiopeia, which doesn't look like it's going to happen. So as it turns out, missing that earlier Cassiopeia didn't really matter a whole lot because I've never even found 2 Cassiopeias, much less 3. So as much as I'd like to 2-star that unit, it hasn't made a huge difference thus far. And of course, now that I've 2-starred the Lilia, now another Lilia pops up. So we're up against this Sharpshooter comp. I played this comp earlier and, you know, destroyed this, but watch what happens. The Aatrox pulls Jhin right into the middle of my team comp, and Riven apparently got popped by somebody because she got bursted down. And with no Jhin and with no Riven, my team comp can't really do what it needs to do. I mean, the Morgana is still doing a lot of work, but Morgana isn't really someone who can solo an enemy team, so we're going to end up losing that round. It's not a bad loss for this stage of the game. I think I took 13 damage, which is not that bad. As it turns out, the person I was playing, the Hobosexual, also just got knocked out of the game. So I was like, all right, well, I think that round was a little bit unlucky. That's probably not a loss that's gonna happen a lot, and I don't even have to see that team comp anyway. So whatever. Out of these items, I could take that Vanguard item and turn another unit into a Vanguard. Like, I could turn Shen into a Vanguard, which wouldn't be a bad play, but I opt for the Giant Slayer. I opt for more damage on Jhin over looking to go for that. And Jin has just been really fantastic. He's a great addition to one of these team compositions. With Double Giant Slayer, he'll attack fast, and he will have even more attack damage, plus the extra damage he's getting as a result of having the Dusk 6 in play, which gives him a lot of extra spell power. So I'm looking at the only team comp available remaining. I like where Riven is. I'm going to shift Jin over to the right because I think that's a bit safer. Similarly, shift Lilia over a little bit to the right because that's a bit safer. And here I'm going to rely on the fact that this Moonlight team composition is very grouped up. I'm hoping that Morg can just hit everyone on the enemy team with her Dazzler, with her pool there. Unfortunately, Riven gets popped really early, which is unfortunate. So it's going to rely on the rest of the team to carry this fight. And now Jin goes down too. I was like, oh, do I have enough left over to win this? But Lilia is getting off multiple sleepy times, and Morg's pool just does so much damage thanks to having, again, that Dusk 6 in play. And I was like, all right, so we do in fact have enough. So it's the Jin and the Morgana show here at the end of the game. They actually win that last round for me. And that's going to do it. That's the end of the match. This is going to be our first place, which you might have guessed because I'm showing this. Not as interesting to show games where I try to make a team comp and it doesn't happen. But this is, I think, a pretty good example of what a Dusk composition can look like. As I mentioned, it's a very flexible team composition. I didn't go into Cultist here, which is one of the ways that you can play this. I didn't play Zillion, I didn't play Aatrox, but you can fit a lot of different units in. You can even go the Adept route if you want, with like Shen plus Aurelia plus Yone. Like I said, it's a flexible team comp. It's a lot of fun to play. If you haven't tried it, I'd encourage you to give it a shot. Anyway, though, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, hope you guys have a great week. Take care. I'll see you guys soon.